As always, I'm here with Trey Chambers.
And
our special guest.
Who's not in frame yet.
Not ready yet. Not ready at all for this. Didn't realize the show was going to start like this. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Charles has 20 times more energy than the rest of us put together.
Yeah, that seems accurate.
I'll also take out everyone's favorite, the metal straw will be removed from this episode's broadcast, so you won't even have to hear that.
Man, Charles is on it today. All right, I was not ready for this level of professionalism. Okay, so today we are talking about the board game HATE. That is our topic du jour, and then we'll talk about our top 3 adult-themed board games. And then after that, we will just talk about some games we've been playing recently, and man, we have some interesting games to talk about.
Yes!
All right, so...
Games that are not good, but think they are. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. All right, let's talk about HATE to start with. So I guess my first question that I wanted to discuss is, why do we think HATE did so well? It earned $1.5 million on Kickstarter, which is pretty high. And I mean, you know, it's just CMON doing its thing. They put up a lot of these games where like the minis are amazing, the gameplay is questionable. The same.
With
Questionable.
variances.
Yeah. So in spite of, I guess, its super adult material, why do we think it did so well?
Shall we start with?
Yeah, guest host. Jump right in.
Jumping right in.
Most of these are somewhat guesses because this is not the kind of game that appeals to me, really, at all. The minis are cool. That's about it. But I think one reason is campaign games seem quite popular right now. People are looking for new campaign games as they're finishing up their old ones. You know, everyone's done Pandemic Legacy, need something else to fit into that groove. We have Gloomhaven, which is another campaign game, but that one is massive and time-consuming. HATE is a little bit on the simpler side, a little bit simpler mechanics. You don't have to dive quite as deeply into it.
HATE is not a co-op, right?
No.
It's
no,
PvP.
straight
Yeah.
PvP.
Yeah, so it's a lot of, I think, these legacy games that have been coming out lately, besides Seafall, and besides Charterstone, I guess, have been more co-op. Yeah, but this is a PvP one. What other... Trying to think, besides Seafall, what other campaign/legacy games have come out that are PvP?
What's it called? There's the
Seven Continent is sort of...
No, it's co-op.
It's co-op, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I don't know. Maybe it's like fulfilling that niche. I don't think the legacy aspect of HATE is like that important to it, though, or is it? I don't know. I couldn't really tell from the...
I mean,
the Kickstarter did not focus so much on the gameplay. Let's just put it that way.
It looked to me like it was going to be more campaign-based. So more along the line of Gloomhaven, the dungeon crawler or RPG, where you're slowly going to be advancing up your character and your town through each campaign, as opposed to, you know, in a more legacy style thing. I'm not sure, because it was it 12 parts for HATE? I can't exactly remember, or if you could just keep on playing it.
I think it's for, from what I gathered, it's for up to 6 people, and you play each person. You play every other person in it, so it depends on how many people are playing.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. So maybe an interesting take on the legacy formula. Obviously the CMON minis, and the adult theme.
Well, let's be serious here. A lot of the reason a lot of these game companies have gone to Kickstarter, especially if they have like already established audiences, is because that's where their clients met them. So CMON or Come On Games can always go put out a Kickstarter, put out miniatures, guarantee themselves to make a good amount of money. Usually, what did this one make? 1.5 million, if I remember correctly. You know, a number of their Kickstarters have gone over $1 million. I can't remember what their, you know, and they've had some of the top games that's going to 2 millions.
So I guess what I was interested by is that it hit that in spite of like the controversy. Like you heard, there was a lot of derision, especially on like Reddit and BGG, about like the campaign and its tone and its the trailer video. Which if you haven't watched it, you should totally watch it.
Look, as proven by the president of this country, an occasional F-bomb will go a long way to get you what you need. But I mean, I think just having a graphic trailer, not really graphic as so much as one that had a vulgar trailer is probably the best way. So it's using vulgar language in order to sell it.
It was. I felt like the vulgarity was very forced, though. Like they were like trying to hit as many f-bombs as they could within 6 minutes or however long it was.
I assumed it was a parody in about the first 30 seconds. Because there was so much controversial stuff thrown into those first 30 seconds, I assumed, oh, this is a parody video. But no, that was the actual... I mean, maybe it was slightly tongue-in-cheek, but that was the actual promotional video. It was not a parody. Believe it or not.
It was a parody of itself. Perhaps not self-aware.
Perhaps not.
You know, it reminded me of watching wrestling commercials. Except,
yes,
know, it's like, oh, we're going to make a wrestling commercial. How can we differentiate it from it? Oh, let's add some F-bombs like they do for when they do a wrestling pay-per-view commercial.
Yeah.
You know, so...
Yeah, but, I mean, and as Charles pointed out, it is based on a source material, and the source material is like a very adult comic, so, I mean, I guess they know their audience, is the way to put it.
I mean, it's an adult comic from Image Comics, and Image, of course, is an imprint that is basically run by Robert Kirkman now, though it wasn't originally founded by him, but traditionally they've gone with the more adult vein, starting with Spawn about 20 years ago, working their way up through The Walking Dead, and going on from there to a number of independent publishers. And, you know, my background is in comic books. I worked in a comic book shop for like 10 years. Basically, you know, most comics have had an adult thing or adult content for most of their existence. It's just, you know, as we keep on going, it sort of like vacillates between the very serious and adult to the hyper violent. It's sort of back and forth. So,
yeah. So, one thing I wanted to ask is, do we think games like Hate that are like kind of very immature and hardcore and adult, do you think it's bad for the hobby? Do you think it's going to put people off of board games, or do you think it's actually going to help us reach like a younger audience? Like if it's tailored to 12-year-old boys, then, you know, maybe we'll bring some 12-year-old boys into board gaming, and maybe that's a good thing, you know.
Or 12-year-old girls. I mean,
yeah, very hateful ones.
You know, when you asked this question before, because we talk about things before the episode, the one thing that came to mind was movies. And in movies, sometimes you come across a license that is intended to be a mature rated R type of license and ends up crossing over so ubiquitously that now you have kids actively wanting to get it, especially kids who are nowhere in the target demographic. Most recently, we can see this with the Deadpool franchise from Marvel, where, you know, Deadpool's definitely for adults, and there's no actual Deadpool toy line per se, but the other toys that Marvel produces that have Deadpool and characters in it suddenly get a spike, and they release those out again. And in the past, we had things like Terminator, you know, which basically has blown up, and Aliens, and these are movies that kids see when they're younger, and they're like, oh yeah, I really want to go see that. And even though they're like 11, 12, and 13, it becomes really hot to go see this R-rated movie. I feel like that's sort of the same for games, because we had the explosion that was Cards Against Humanity, which brought a great influx of people in, using its its vulgar take on apples to apples. And, you know, I don't think it's bad for the hobby. I just, you know, this particular game, I think whether a game is adult or not is secondary to is it good. And, you know, if a game's not good, then what's the point?
Right, I think what is certainly bad for the hobby is games with bad mechanics, games with lazy design, and I think that a lot of adult-themed games can easily fall into this trap of being a little bit lazier about the mechanics and a little bit lazier about the design, because they know it's going to sell. It's salacious, it's going to sell, so it doesn't necessarily need to have the same depth as a not-so-salacious game.
Salacious?
So, very nice.
God.
Sorry.
Edit it out, please. Edit it out. Okay.
Never.
Well, it's very fun.
Um,
So I would just caution designers who lean toward adult-themed games, just make sure it's still a solid game, because I do think that lazy board games are bad for the hobby.
Yeah, and besides the violence, which, I mean, my opinion on the violence is, kind of take it or leave it. If you're into violent games, then play it. If you're not, then not. But what could potentially put some people off is the representation of women in the game, which I was looking at the minis, and I didn't go through the whole art book, but I did go through the minis, and there's only like 9, or actually less than that. There's like 6 female miniatures out of like 50, whatever. So the ratio is way off, but that's to be expected in like a war game. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's it's just kind of par for the course. But of the female minis, only one of them was like fully clothed, and like the rest of them were barely wearing anything. And then
they're all monks, man.
Yeah. Contrast that with the male characters is like they were all fully armored except for like 1 or 2 that had like bare chest. But like it just, to me, that was very weird, and it's been taken to task like on the forums a lot. And of course then you have like these big SJW versus whoever, people who want to watch the world burn debates, and they just become these big flame wars on BGG and Reddit.
That's your favorite type to participate in, is it not?
I try not to participate them.
Are you
I do
sure?
lurk them.
I mean,
Oh no, I participate in a lot of controversial threads, but I tend to not jump into those particular ones. But because I feel like I don't have really anything interesting to say to that.
Could it be the fact that you're the center of controversy in the other threads?
Yeah, well, I can only engender so much controversy. But anyway, I know there's definitely going to be a lot of female gamers and a lot of gamers in general that are going to have a problem with that. So what about that aspect pushing people away from the hobby, besides the violent theme?
It might be a little unfair to single this game out because female
That's
nudity
true.
is the least surprising thing in the gaming industry. It's everywhere. I would honestly be shocked if I looked at the minis and they were fully clothed, because that would be not par for the course. So, I mean, sure, we need to get a little bit better in this area, perhaps. But it's not just Hate, for sure. It's pretty much every game in this particular genre.
Yeah, that is a good point.
And a lot of art styles, too. I mean, of course,
Art styles.
this has become rampant in comic books. I believe the average size of a normal female woman in the majority of comic books is double D, and probably a 30-inch waist to go along with it. Sort of like the Barbie
That's
comic.
totally normal, Charles.
Yeah.
It
Totally
is
normal.
It is totally normal as well. But, obviously sex is always sold very well. And I'm, like you, I'm not very surprised about this either. I do wish that they would have, I guess when you're going to be faithful to the source material, I sort of just wish you'd just pick up better source material.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
shocked
That's
that
one way to deal with it.
sexiness is even possible in this post-apocalyptic future.
Yeah.
It seems like everything else has gone to crap. I don't know.
They're like, why bother getting ready in the morning, But the men took time to put on their armor.
They did.
Yeah, and I guess that's my real problem with it. Like, I don't have a problem with. Hi, Tixie
Hello.
wanted to say hello to
Quiet.
the podcast. Yeah. So I don't have a problem so much with like nudity in the human form, because it's an adult game, it's adult themed, then that's fine. But the like having the uneven ratio, I'll say this for Kingdom Death, like Kingdom Death puts both its men and women in loincloths,
Yeah,
so it's totally equal.
You have to earn your armor in that game. You can't just go around and not have. Because you do have to earn your armor in that game, and you do get to slowly build them on in pieces and stuff. I'm not sure. I have seen. It's been so long. I did look at the Kingdom Death Kickstarter when it first started. was that 5 years ago? I remember like there's the
took
5-year
like
Kickstarter.
4 years to deliver.
There was the 2 years production. There was or 2.5 years, 3 years of production. There was a year of shipping. But yes, I do now know people who own it and enjoy it quite a bit. So
I would love to play it like at least once just to try
see,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know any millionaires.
you
so.
mean paint it?
No,
You would love
no,
to paint it,
I would
right?
not. No. I would not like to paint it.
There is no painting. Is the play of Kingdom Death?
Speaking of painting, I just played Rising Sun last night, but we'll get to that when we get to new games.
Okay.
Anything else that y'all wanted to mention about Hate before we move on?
I don't know, Abby. You did the work. You looked at it a
Sorry.
lot more than me, so it's just like
It just didn't. And this is purely a taste question, but it just didn't look very fun. It looked extremely dark, extremely violent, which is fine, but I guess I want my dark and violent games to have at least a little bit of an element of humor to them to lighten the mood. This game didn't really seem to have much humor or lightheartedness at all. It just seemed very dark, which doesn't seem to me like my idea of a good time, but maybe if you're into that, why not?
it's up before.
Yeah, for sure.
I
I totally
one last
missed.
topic that you
I
had
missed
to-
my last topic,
Yeah,
which
so-
actually segues right into what Abby was saying. I feel like there is a double standard though between adult media in video games and movies and whatever, where it's just kind of like people gloss over it. But like it seems like every time one of these dark board games get released, it's like the hugest controversy. And does anybody know why that is? Because like no one's like, let's blow up the forums over Deadpool or whatever, or GTA. Like a new GTA game comes out every 2 years, and no one like now it's just normal. Like I know it was super controversial when it first came out, but now it's just like, oh look, it's a new GTA game. But
Right.
it seems like every time an adult board game comes out, it's like a scandal.
I would say that overall, the reason for that is that people expect to play board games with their family, and they just
It's still seen as like a
yeah,
family
it's still a
hobby.
family
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, so it's
that's
like
the only thing I can think of because I'm just
Family. It's a much more public activity as well, which I think is a big thing. So most of the I know that there are, video game cafes and things like that, but by
closing
far
down all the time.
the giant majority of video game playing is happening probably at somebody's basement somewhere with a couple of friends.
That is not Trey's basement. That is Trey's living room.
Or somebody's living room. That's usually something that's done in your house. It's usually in a more private setting. Board games, I mean, sure, we do have Trey's board game event here at his house every week, but we also meet in a lot of public places.
ready. All right, take two.
Take two.
Technical difficulties.
All
All right. So I think we're pretty much done with Hate. We can move on to our top 3 games with adult themes. All right. So, before I start, I wanted to give a curious mention to This War of Mine. I haven't played it yet, but I've heard it's really, really good. It's really well reviewed, and it's basically like a post-apocalyptic co-op game. And basically, there's this war going on, or maybe it's not post-apocalyptic. Maybe there's just a modern-day war. But basically, it's like you and a group of survivors trying to stay alive during this war. It sounds really interesting. The video game is also very well reviewed, which I also want to play.
Yeah,
So-
I think it was on sale to Steam. I actually got this War of Mine for free, but I haven't played it yet. So.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was free on the PS Plus subscription.
That's really cool.
So.
So that is a board game that I really want to get. I'm like up to my elbows in co-op games that taking forever to get through. Between Gloomhaven and Spirit Island, like there's so much gameplay right there. So
We call it friendly Trey. You like being friendly.
now apparently,
Trey doesn't want to play competitive game anymore. It's all
I played nothing but competitive games last night. No, that's not true. We played one co-op game,
Of course.
but it was co-ops, man. I mean, prototype day, so we had to play whatever was out there. All right, so I'll start. My number 3 is Codenames Deep Undercover. I just think it's hilarious. It's actually a lot harder than regular Codenames because there's like sometimes the dirty words are like so similar, and so if you have like this is a very PG podcast, so I'm trying to like explain this without taking it into PG-13 territory. But like, let's say
if you have apple,
yeah, if you have apple and oranges and various other things that are very close describing the same curvaceous object, then you're like, I don't know how to really give clues for this without, because only apples on my list and not oranges.
But and you want to say fruits, but unfortunately, if you want to think your clue of fruits could be a fruits 2, but actually it really could be a fruits 5, and you forgot how many different types of fruits there were. But because you're playing adult, apple and orange and banana. Those are just the fruits you can eat, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Thank you. Yes. Edited by my own dog. Okay.
yeah, he can bleep us.
Yeah.
So one thing I thought was funny though is that a lot of the cards when you get it, which I think you can only get it from Target actually, strangely enough, when you get it, like 80% of the words in the game are not even dirty. So what I had to do was take out like half the cards, put half of the cards into regular code names, and you can just put them in the family version and it's fine, because they're not dirty at all. And then I kept the ones with actual dirty words on them, I kept those in a separate box in the like adult version. So I don't know why they put so many cards that are not dirty in the dirty version of the game, but
Hang on a second. This has totally skewed my perception of the game then, because I played your
really?
version of the game.
oh yeah,
And I was about to talk about how I didn't like it, because there was so little variety in the types of words that were in there. But clearly I'm wrong.
I took out all the non-dirty
variety.
Yeah.
Alright, so I cannot talk about Codenames Deep Undercover because I've only played a version
My
that has
version,
been tampered
yes,
with.
it is a
So-
very tampered version.
Oh my gosh.
Curated all the cards.
This explains everything.
All right, Abby, you want to go next?
Well, I was also gonna say Codenames Deep Undercover. This is weird. We have a lot of similar games, I think, on this one. I honestly don't think it's as good as regular Codenames, because I think there's less space for creativity. But that's because all of the words were the same thing when I played it. So
And that's my fault again.
that is your fault. I just think you can be as dirty as you want with your clues in regular Codenames. Nothing's stopping you from doing that. You just have to have a little bit of creativity. So, but I still put it on my list because Codenames is a solid game. So, even the adult version is still fun. Codenames is fun. So.
Very good, Charles.
Let's go with Tanto Cuore with my number 3.
You've played that game and you like that game?
Well, let's just say it was one of my first adult introductions to a actual adult themed Dominion, and a lot of it is just Dominion. And I just put Tanto Cuore because they keep on incrementing the system and bringing out new things, and I'm not sure if I like any of those games. However, I will give them credit for being quintessentially the game I wanted to play when I was 16, and I recognized it. I'm like, if this game had been out when I was 16, I would have hidden it from my mother and played it as much as I could and said, hey, this game is really adult, right? But, it does take it's just a standard deck builder for the most part, but, they add new things that are interesting. Of course, the art is fantastic if you like that type of Japanese anime girl style art, which I really did when I was 16, and I've sort of fallen out of over the years, but I can still give it credit for it.
I now remember I did have this game demoed for me at one of my first BGG cons like 8 years ago when the first version of this game came out, and there was a white girl in a Japanese maid outfit at BGG, which is a really weird place to find something like that because BGG is not like a typical con.
Yeah, people don't usually dress up.
Right, but she was like a booth girl, I guess, but like she demoed the game for me, and I was like, this is it was very basic. I mean, it's probably a lot more complicated now, but it was basically just Dominion with a different theme. So I was like, okay, that's interesting, but I'm going to pass because I don't really like Dominion that much anyway.
How many more times did you go and have the demo?
None.
Okay.
All right, my number 2 is Telestrations After Dark, which is basically dirty version of Telestrations. They just use dirty words instead. And it kind of has the Codenames Deep Undercover problem, though, where like half the words are not dirty at all. So you roll the die and it's just like, oh, it's something totally normal, and that's what we're drawing. But, I still like Telestrations After Dark. I still think the best way to play Telestrations, though, is, don't even play Telestrations, just play Eat Poop You Cat. Just, take a piece of paper and draw in pencil. But no one else ever wants to play it, so I play it late at night at BGG Con with people who really like to play it that way. But, other than that, Telestrations is a good game, and the After Dark version is pretty cool because, you get to draw some interesting things, and you get to see some really interesting drawings by the time it comes around the table. And with that in mind, I want to shout out, it's not technically an adult game, it's actually a family game, technically, but it's called Say Anything, which it's an older game. If you haven't played it, you should try it. It's basically everyone has to draw a category, and then people vote on the best drawing, kind of like apples to apples style. But you can draw anything you want, or just write anything you want. And so you can imagine where that game goes when playing with adults, to only bad places. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that game, even though it's not for adults, but every game I've ever played with it turned into a very adult game. The most adult game. Abby, number 2.
So, when I came up with my top 3 adult-themed games, I didn't even know that Telestrations After Dark existed. But I put Telestrations, the regular one, because it just so happens that every time I play with my group of friends, it devolves into insanity. And it gets extremely dirty. So, what is it?
So we're just bad people, I guess.
Mostly... Oh, who do we play? Well, I can't even say these words on the podcast, I don't think, because they would get bleeped out. But I think there's one option where you roll a die and you get to make up your own word or phrase to put in, and it's inevitably something very dirty or something that could be easily interpreted as dirty once it's been drawn on the paper. So we've had some fun times with regular Telestrations, not even the adult one.
Yes.
Yes.
Good choice. Charles?
Cards Against Humanity, because it rules. It's sort of hard to not put Cards Against Humanity on the list, basically, for me at least, because...
I thought you hated that game.
There was a time when I loved it, and there was a time when there was a time when I didn't,
I think everybody really enjoys their first few plays,
Yeah.
but then it gets real old real fast.
I wouldn't say
Right,
it
once
gets...
you see all the cards.
Yeah.
But they keep adding more cards. But, I sort of have to give credit where credit is due for a game that, while it does wear out its welcome, it is always initially a very good and fresh game. And there are a lot of people who just stay on it forever, sort of like Monopoly or something.
Yeah, that I don't understand is, I don't see how... There are people, and I've met these people, who literally play this game every Wednesday night or every Thursday night. Like, they have a designated Cards Against Humanity night that them and their friends go to a bar or go to someone's house and just play this game. I cannot understand that, because after 1 month you would have all the cards memorized, and then where does the fun come in?
But it's a great drinking.
Maybe you drink enough that you forget that you've heard the cards before, and it's freshly funny.
It's not a coincidence that they often pair it with drinking, because how else could it be funny? Bless you.
But it is a great drinking game. So, even if you're not drinking, it's just a great game to be around a big group of people with. It's a good introductory game. If people haven't played it before.
It is a good party game in the sense of the word party, because a lot of parties are loud, and that's one of the few games you can actually play when people are being loud. Even a lot of party games, you can't really concentrate and play when there's just so much chaos going on. But that game you can.
Yeah, it also has been, in addition to ripping off apples and apples, but it's also had a lot of games where it's ripped off, or been ripped off, like Crabs Against Humidity, and a few others that are...
Crabs Adjust Humidity.
Yeah, Adjust Humidity, yeah. So, I just give credit where credit is due, so... Yeah.
All right. Very good. So my number 1 is not a party game. It is actually the only, I guess, adult-themed board game I own that's not a party game, and that is Chaos in the Old World. I've talked about it on the show many times, but if you're a first-time listener, it's basically a war game designed by Eric Lane. It's a war game / Euro game. He uses a lot of Euro mechanics, as he is wont to do. And he mixes those in a war game setting. But it is there's a lot of dice rolling, and it's a dudes on a map game, so there's area control, but there's also card play, and the card play is actually the most interesting aspect in my opinion. And you're playing cards into different zones, and the cards do various things. it's just a really, really interesting game. The 4 factions and the 5th, when you add the expansion, they're all wildly different. They play wildly different, and like the asymmetrical powers are amazing. So it's one of my favorite war games, probably my favorite war game of all time. And it is very adult in theme. Basically, you're playing an evil god trying to destroy the world. But it's not just that abstract. Like, you actually play the game on a map made of human skin. It's like stretched out, and the map is drawn onto the skin. So,
Of course.
you know, it's a very it was more hateful than hate before hate was cool. So yeah, Abby.
So I hesitated to categorize this as an adult-themed game, but I would not play it with children because of the theme. So I'm putting it on here. Number 1 is Secret Hitler, which I actually like in spite of the theme. I don't like the theme of Secret Hitler. I don't think it's necessary. I think they could have chosen any number of other themes and the game could have been exactly the same. But it's a good fun game. It's a good hidden roles game. My group really likes to play Avalon, so Secret Hitler is similar to Avalon, but enough different that it provides some freshness and variety. And it is, it's pretty challenging if you like hidden roles games.
Yeah, I almost put it on my list, but then I was like, they do such a hard job, because like the whole point of the title is like to catch your attention, right, and get you to buy the game. But then like the game itself like is very cartoony art. It doesn't take itself very seriously. So I was like, is this really adult? I don't know, but I think it's a good choice because I do think it's a good game. And I mean, yeah, just the name implies that this is a very adult theme. So
it's unfortunate because it's a good game to play like toward the end of the night with our big group at Cafe Express, but I always cringe a little bit because we're always in the very middle of the restaurant, like 10 of us going, "You're Hitler! You're a fascist!" in the middle of this public space, and I'm always, a little bit reluctant to play that type of game because people don't know what's going on. There's random other customers. So that's why I put it as an adult game. If someone wants to re-theme Secret Hitler with, I don't know, an ancient Rome theme, maybe? I don't know.
You say that like My Little Pony Secret Hitler doesn't already exist, but a fan has made it somewhere.
I would play that.
There's a disturbing number of My Little Pony themes in board games.
Hold on. Please, bronies, we love bronies. We do not have anything against bronies and all the resources that you have at your disposal. Please, we respect your game. Speaking of which, I do have an honorable mention for best adult board game. It is really the greatest adult board game of all time. You learn it as a child, even Twister.
That's a good pick. It's a good pick.
Twister is really my number 1 adult board game. It has, got me through many a party settings, if possible. If you're at the party and Twister gets brought out and people are playing it incorrectly, then you've won the party, honestly. So in many ways, it is truly my spiritual number 1 game for adult board games. But as far as like regular, I guess, Euro games, I really did struggle. I thought about Cards Against Humanity. I thought about Tanto Cuore. Really in my heart, I wanted to say Battlestar Galactica just because of the source material, sort of adult. But I have a few games that I thought would be really good at being adult games, like Spartacus, but I never felt it went far enough.
That's true.
In terms of embracing its source material. Like
yeah.
My biggest criticism, like I thought Spartacus would be a good game if they went ahead and actually made it the NC-17 masterpiece that it was, but they didn't do it. And because of that, I always felt like it was missing something. Because you had the treachery, you had the background, you had the backstabbing, you had the intrigue, but you just didn't have honestly, the thing that the Spartacus board game was missing was like the sex as bribery component that literally went
throughout the show.
The show. So I always felt there was like a missed opportunity, but it was one of the games that I used to look really forward to. And as far as adult themed games, this really isn't my genre, but it's something I wanted to mention and put up there.
Yeah, and I definitely think there is a space out there for like mature adult themed games that are, not like Hate, where it's just like let me stuff as much violence, sex, and profanity in the game as I can and use that to sell it. Like, I'm talking about what I think this War of Mine is like, where it's like, it's very dark in its themes and adult in its themes, but actually also has good gameplay underneath. So I'd like to see more games like that, frankly, but, hopefully we will in the future.
But
They do an honorable mention for possibly
yeah.
worst adult-themed game.
Oh, sure.
well, we could've
That
gone-
sounds great.
This is one of the most inappropriate, based on like subject material, not necessarily like no nudity, no bad language or things like that. But it is a game called Infarkt, which is German, I believe, for heart attack. This is a game where you literally compete to try to kill each other off with like actual real illnesses that people get. So you try to like feed people really crappy food so that they have a heart attack and die. Or you
Okay.
try to like subtly poison people so that they have a stroke and die. You try to I don't know, get people to contract cancer or all these really terrible things.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a terrible game. It's a terrible game. You're basically competing to be the last person to die of like terrible illnesses. It's a real game. I've played it. Don't play it.
Yeah, no, that sounds terrible. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So,
And not appropriate.
I mean, we always have the infamous. I mean, is this the place where we get to mention lap dance on our show?
Is that a board
sure.
game?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
that's a board
gosh.
game. You played it, right? I think.
No,
No.
but I read about it.
Yeah.
But that game, it is an equal opportunity offender. Like, there's just as many male strippers as there are female strippers in that game.
Is it a game about strippers?
It's a game
It's
about
called
being
lap
a,
dance.
yeah, you're a strip club man. You're trying to take the place of the new strip club manager after the old one got fired for corruption.
Oh.
Or something, if I remember correctly, is the general
You know,
spot. But
Different strokes, different folks. All right, so recently played games. I wanted to talk about some games that I played at PAX South that was run by like some little independent booth, and I thought it was appropriate for this episode. One was called Quick and Dirty, is a party game. This is these are made by the same company, by the way. But Quick and Dirty is a party game where basically you flip over a card and it has like a prompt on it. It's like name something, blah blah, and you're basically, it's the first person who thinks of something dirty, like slaps the card and claims it, and then it's worth a point. Which sounds like a totally lame game, but it actually was a little fun. I'm sure it'd be a fun, like, 15-minute bring it out at a party type of game. Like Cards Against Humanity, but maybe not quite as entertaining. But, I expected to hate it. I didn't hate it. It's kind of a just silly little game. What game was not good, especially for me, being colorblind as I am, they had a game called F-Word the Game, but it wasn't F-Word, it actually had it spelled out, but I'm not going to say it on this podcast. But, like, that was literally the title of the game, was just the F-Word, the game.
Okay.
And that game was, you flip a card, and you either have to say the color, the word that the card says, or you have to say something else. I forget what the third category was. But based on, like, what was going on the card. So, like, there was, like, some set of rules. Like, if the word was the color, you have to say the color, not the word. But if the word was not a color, it was just black and white, then you had to say the word and not the color, but the color would be very vibrant in the background, so your mind would want to say the color. So it was like, it just tried to trick your mind to say the opposite of what you were supposed to say. And if you said the correct thing, you got a point, and if you said the incorrect thing, you didn't get a point. But me being colorblind, it just caused my brain to kind of explode, and it was also a really dumb game. So I just wanted to mention those real quick. Abby, played anything new?
Yes. Neither of them are new in terms of like newly released, but new to our collection. One is Welcome to Centerville.
Oh, yeah, how is
I
that?
think Charles has been playing that too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of fun. It's a dice rolling game, sort of. Like, you roll a dice to see which type of actions you're going to take, but it also has elements of area control, push your luck a little bit. So it has a lot of different elements to it. It's basically a city planning and running game, which sounds dry, but it's really not dry, and there's lots of bright colors and things to make it happy feeling too. So I've had a lot of fun with it. I'm terrible at it. I can't seem to win, but I've had fun when I've played it. So
I've beaten Abby when she's played it. I think I mentioned. I
That's
might have
true.
mentioned this a couple.
I think you played the first time I played.
Yeah, I did,
Yeah.
and I think I might have even mentioned it on the podcast, like in the last podcast or the previous. But still, it's well worth mentioning. This is a very good game, and it's new to a lot of different people, and it's very. I mean, I like Chad Jensen. He's a designer who usually makes war games. He made Dominant Species. He's made this game. And so as far as his Euro-style games, he's basically batting 1,000. There are a little swinging you can see, but nothing tremendously bad. So.
I have heard, though, it's not necessarily colorblind friendly, and you haven't played it yet, right, Trey?
No, I have not yet.
So it could be, because each of the dice is a different color, but they all have pretty much the same faces on them, so you'd have to pay really close attention to which die was which one, or just keep asking your friends.
Actually, no, they changed. The only thing that's color specific, they actually have a unique symbol for.
But you need to know what color the die is, because it shows you like which sector you can actually do it in and stuff like that.
No. But the symbol for each of the colored sectors is actually a different symbol.
Sure. Yes.
Oh, but you're talking about. Oh, you're talking about. I know what you're saying.
Political posts and like everything
posts.
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
too.
You're
so.
right. You're right.
But I'm not actually colorblind, so I can't say definitively. But I have heard a couple people mention like,
well,
it could be.
you may get another 10-minute rant about this game.
We will see. You should try it anyway, and maybe it's actually perfectly fine. And Charles is right, there are different symbols. So.
Charles.
You know what's funny? I actually haven't played any new games.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's
we haven't recorded in like 2 months. You haven't played new games in 2 months?
It's sort of so I upgraded my Terraforming Mars.
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
And basically got another 3D printing of it, and I played a lot of that. Every city is custom molded, and then I've been playing Gloomhaven with you, and I've been playing Charterstone, and then at my gaming group they keep on wanting to play a rotation of Clans of against Caledonia and Terraforming Mars and a few other things. I just haven't played anything new. I have new games coming on the way. But
nice. Did you get Gaia Project?
No, I did not.
You're gonna make me get it, aren't you? It's fine. I'll get it. I've been looking for a reason to buy games. Cool. I just played Rising Sun last night, so I'm gonna talk about that. Because that is a major game, and it just got released, and I just got the Kickstarter Thursday. Played it. I was the only one who liked it out of 6 players, which is not a good sign. It is by Eric Lang, who designed the much superior Chaos in the Old World, and ultimately that's probably why I'm going to end up selling it, is because he already made this game in a much better form, Chaos in the Old World. I sold Blood Rage for the same reason, for double the money I paid for it, and I hope to do the same thing when I turn around Rising Sun. So hopefully the prospective buyers aren't listening to this mini review of Rising Sun.
Just release that. Release this episode after you sold it.
That's a good idea. But basically Rising Sun is a dudes on a map game, Eric Lang, there's Euro mechanics. The war resolution, and probably my least favorite part of the game, is blind bidding of all things. You're bidding behind a screen. Similar to the also superior Cry Havoc, where there's like different categories you're bidding in. But yeah, you're bidding money, but it's behind the screen, whereas in Cry Havoc, everyone can see what you're bidding on. So it's more like an auction. But this is blind bidding, you lose all your money, and it's they should have come up with a better combat mechanic. But the rest of the engine building is actually really cool. The getting your cards, taking actions, building your stuff on the map. I like all that aspect, but I did not like the war resolution, and apparently my compatriots did not, and they hated actually everything about the game, really.
Sounds like Fallout again.
Yeah. Also, we found one of the expansion factions to be really imbalanced. The guy who played it tripled our scores. Like, literally tripled everyone else's score at the table.
Was it a Kickstarter exclusive expansion?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes those get taken out of the game because they're imbalanced.
Yeah. So, not good. So, but anyway. So that was Rising Sun. I can't really recommend it. I mean, I thought it was fun, but Chaos in the Overworld is better. Just buy that. Yeah. Abby, do you have any other new ones?
Another new one was China, which is pure
you never
area
played
control.
China?
I've never played China before. I love area control games, so I should have played it a long time ago. But it's pure area control, and it's short. It's you can play, if you know what you're doing, you can probably play it in half an hour. If you have new people, maybe 45 minutes, but it still shouldn't take long. So, yeah, it's nice to have a short, quick area control. I mean, I still think El Grande is the best of all the area control games. Everyone should play El Grande. But China is also, it's fun and quick, pure strategy, basically. I guess there's a little bit of luck with the card draw, but minimal luck. So
Yeah, it's a classic. If you want a light area control game and you don't have enough time to play El Grande or something, China is a super excellent game. And yeah, there needs to be more light area control games that are actually good, because there are very few, and China is a great game.
there's that terrible one that we played over here.
Which one was that?
Gentis.
Oh man.
Gentis.
No.
Yeah, the one with the L's. Yeah, it's Gentis. Don't worry.
Gentis?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
The elves?
so bad.
No, it has all
I
the
don't think
different
that's what it's called.
6 different.
No, try to find it back
Oh,
there.
Ethnos.
Ethnos.
sorry.
Ethnos. Don't play
Yes.
Ethnos is a great game.
Oh.
Don't listen to these haters. It's a great game. A great light area control game like that one. All right, we should wrap it up because we need to start our game day. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube and Twitter. And you can join Tuxedo Fan Club.
Sorry about that.
We're at Eternally Bored on Twitter, and it's BOARD, like board games. And our website is www.eternallybored.com. So please check us out there as well. And until next time, we're eternally bored, so you don't have to be. Bye.
Really?